Nau mai, haere mai, e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm on Gadigal land in Sydney, as is Danny in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. We have Erin and a special guest today, Jordan Martin, who is in Birrawong, Melbourne. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
We'll have a chat to Jordan about his photography and the little trips he likes to take with his family, but today we will start with the men. They played on Friday away to Western Sydney Wanderers. It was a very poor crowd. In fact, it's the worst home turnout ever, excluding the COVID era for Wanderers. They are bottom of the table, so there's not a lot of faith in them at the moment. I want to complain about the fact that it was multicultural round, but Wanderers put out a post saying that you were not allowed to wear any kind of shirt or imagery from a nation that's in a major conflict without actually describing what a major conflict was, with no list. I thought, I'll just tell everybody to just be mindful of what they wear, and didn't think about the fact that I would get to the security and they would be like, that banner, we don't know what that says on that banner, because we have a te reo Māori name, the little corner of yellow, and they don't understand New Zealand language. So I had a big drama of getting the banner in, and people were really not pleased, particularly with it being multicultural around that there was these bans on what people couldn't and could wear. Either way, that was resolved. I was allowed to bring it in after the holding it up from the camera and whatnot. Let's talk about the actual game. After my initial rant, 17th minute, Fraser, look, he's brilliant. He played in the Premier League, brilliant on the wing, quick, can whip a ball. There's a sweeping counter-attack in that 17th minute. It starts with Lawrence Thomas. I'm not actually sure who receives the ball and passes it, one of their midfielders, and he just dribbles up and curls it, and it is a beautiful finish. 43rd minute, another goal this time. Kankar, he makes a really, really long run wide and just unleashes a very powerful shot from really far out. Albie just misreads it and then mishandles it, and he gets the touch, but it goes in, which is a really unfortunate goal for him to concede. 58th minute. I don't understand how this wasn't a foul. Jacob Farrell just runs out and has a massive air swing, misses the ball and kicks Matthew Sheridan. It wasn't given a penalty initially, and then the VAR called the ref over. He had a long look at it and then decided it was no foul. I genuinely don't know how that's not a foul. We can come to that. Second half was much better. 68th minute, from a corner, Tuiloma just skirts around Pantazopoulos and tucks it in with his foot. 72nd minute, man, we were on a roll. 4 minutes later, Azir from a set piece, there's a bit of a scramble and he pokes it over. So 2-2 in the end. I think we got a little bit lucky that Fraser was not being used that well in the second half. We had Matt Sheridan looking after him, which was interesting because that meant that James dropped out. Danny, you were with me in the stadium. How'd you find it?
The stadium, I found it really empty, which is a real shame. It's really sad, actually, for Western Sydney Wanderers. Whether you like them or don't like them, they've always had, a particular crowd culture, which is pretty active and loud. And the RBB, still loud. They've got plenty of drums, but there's a couple of hundred of them, and the rest of the ground is really empty. And it's very sad to see that. To be perfectly honest, it's not good for the A-League, but they're doing really badly this season. They're near the bottom of the table, and so are we. We're near the bottom of the table too, and this was a game between two bottom of the table sides, and you could see that it was not good quality. There were plenty of incidents, but the actual gameplay itself wasn't great. It took, I had no idea what formation we were going to play. Once we saw the team sheet come out, it was really strange to see. Couldn't work out what formation we were going to be playing. The thing we're starting was welcome, but sort of unusual. I didn't expect him to start straight away. And there's still debate whether we were playing a back four or a back five. I think it was more like a 4.5. It was sort of a back five maybe, but Tim Payne was pushing way up, as he does, because he's a really good attacking outlet, which left Sheridan sort of either as the right-hand side of three centre-backs or the right back, depending on what you are. And Fraser took good advantage of that. He got a lot of space down there. I think Sheridan was probably put there because he has the pace maybe to deal with Fraser. Maybe he's a bit more mobile than Tim Payne, or bearing in mind that we know that Tim Payne's going to go up there, but it certainly didn't work for the first goal. And Payne was pulled off at half time. He went to a straight back four with Sheridan as the right back, and I thought he did pretty well. Fraser didn't really get a look in after that, which for a player of his qualities says something good about Fraser or the rest of the team. We had Hughes at left back, which, yeah, he did well because he's a decent player, but that's not his ideal position. We had Singh sort of playing on the right midfield near the top with Khartoum and Eze up top. And for me, I don't think that worked. Singh needs to be central. He needs to get the ball. He didn't get enough of the ball in that match because that's the whole point of him. The fact that he's very good at the ball, he's got great, foot skills, and he ended up having to come all over the place just to try and find the balls. We weren't getting it to him, so he wasn't used very well. He wasn't particularly effective, and obviously went off injured in the second half, which seems to happen when we buy a high-profile player with large skill. If I was a player with decent skills, I would not be coming to the midfield of Phoenix because it looks like your last two games, as in Chico, Rojas, etc., Kolakowski. We can keep going, right, can't we? So that was a shame. So not a great match, I didn't think. I thought we were pretty poor. You could say, okay, we're starting with two new players and we weren't really getting it together. We weren't not sure who we were passing to. But we were playing a side in Western Sydney who aren't very good as well. They got 2 goals. One was a goalkeeper howler. We had a few attacks going forward. Nothing great. But you could see how poor they were because when we did score, their confidence just disappeared and we got a second and we were pushing for a third. And I don't think we played particularly well in the second half. It's just they got worse because they have no confidence at all because they're as bad as, probably worse than we are to some extent. So 2-2 in the end, probably a fair result. I did hear a stat in, I think, the previous match that we are the best or scored the most goals through corners in the league, and now we scored 2 more from corners. So it's not something I would have said straight off you'd have asked me, but Tui Loma made both of those goals, so he's obviously a bit of a menace there in the box. That's an attacking threat we can obviously use going forward. I thought Tui Loma was better in this match than he has been, but I still think there's a little bit of worry about the actual sort of speed of reaction of himself and James. If we've got speedy strikers getting space behind them, how quickly they can turn and get back. So we're definitely not playing a high line anymore, and I think that's because of those formations. So look, 2-2 is probably a fair result in the end. I don't think we played particularly well. You could put it down to new formation, new players, but this is a game we really, even though we're away, we needed to get 3 points from. So even though we came back from 2 goals down, which is great, I came away a little bit deflated from that match, I think.
Jordan, any thoughts?
Yeah, it wasn't a great game to watch. Let's be fair. I think we were using Khartoum enough. He's just not getting on the ball enough in that first half anyway. He's obviously a player that's very creative and got some good feet. I hardly heard him mentioned or hardly heard him even get on the ball. So and then Singh coming in, he's obviously quality as well, but he did show a little bit of underprepared. Just hasn't played. But he also showed good quality that he's gonna be decent. So I feel like could have been different if we had a bit more ball playing, but yeah, the game wasn't a great watch, and we're definitely missing Josh in goals. I'm hoping he's back for the Derby this week. But we've been saying that for the last 3 weeks, I reckon, that we need him back. So yeah, it was definitely a tough watch. I ended up missing a bit of the second half, so I didn't even see the 2 goals. But yeah, from what I seen in the first half and the highlights, as well as there's definitely hope there's improvement for this weekend because if we do that against Auckland, it's going to be a pretty tough one again. So yeah. But yeah, and what if the referees got against Eze? I know they've got something against us in general, but there's times there where Eze is, I think he nearly got his shirt ripped off him, and the ref's like, no, there's nothing wrong. But then as soon as Eze touches someone, he's getting a yellow card or he's getting a free kick against. We've brought in a player of absolute quality, but the referees are treating him like that. So why is other players going to want to come to the A-League in general? And that's why, I don't know. I don't think Eze gets a fair treatment for some of the plays against him anyway. But yeah, other than that, I think it showed in that game as well. So yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was a game worthy of a spoon bowl. It's just two pretty bad teams trying to see who could flop the hardest. I think we did not start very well, and I think it's just frustrating to see us go from the team we know that we can be. We've had these moments. We've played against Sydney, and we had incredible press. We've just done everything right, and to kind of watch these two goals where it just looks like no one's putting in any effort. I think they let Kanka run down the whole field, and no one even really bothered to try to close him down. I don't know if they thought that he wouldn't shoot from there, but yeah, I think they just need to put more effort in, and it was just a really hard watch. And then in the second half, Western Sydney just decided to be bad, and we managed to capitalise off that. I don't know what it is with this Western Sydney team, but I think all these good players go there to die, because if you look at their squad, you'd think that they'd be able to do a bit better with what they have. I think, you have FOTMob has two Orange players up top of Barbarousis and Krayev, who, when they played for us, they were excellent. And then as soon as they jumped to Western Sydney, they've suddenly just kind of gone a bit invisible. Ugarkovic as well, but I never really rated him. But if you kind of look at the stats, the second half compared to the first half, we had 205 accurate passes in the first half, and we had 89 in the second, and we managed to get 2 goals just because Western Sydney lost the plot. And I think that we would not get away with that against probably most other teams in the league. So we're lucky to get a point from this, but we're probably also unlucky that we didn't win it. I think if we had potentially been given that penalty call, which I also thought was a penalty call earlier in the game, we would have had a momentum shift earlier, and I think that we probably could have come back and snuck in a third goal. But yeah, I guess we just need to not be awful in the first half going forward and try to win the game from the start rather than falling behind and trying to play catch up in the last 20 or 30 minutes.
That's what we did against Adelaide, right? No, was that the other way around? We went 2-0 up, or they went 2-0 up. And then managed to come back, and it's like, great, we've got to fight back. We won the second half 2-0, but it's not ideal, and especially against a team that's not performing well. For those of you who've never been to CommBank before, right down the opposite end from the away bay, someone has like a goal scoring tally. It's like a big banner, and they've got numbers that they lay over. And when I looked at it, I couldn't believe that, they've only scored 15 goals, including the 2 against us. They have been really incredibly, incredibly poor, despite having some really, really good players. I know they've got a new coach. That makes it a little bit... Sometimes you get a bump with a new coach. I don't think they've got the bump with Gary von Egmond, but, it is what it is. Does anyone have any thoughts about the penalty shout, rather? Because to me, I think that looked very obvious. And there was a second one where Carlo's gone down because he's been copped in the back that I don't think was a foul, that one. But any assessment on the penalty call there? And are the refs really against us, or are we just being one-eyed? Any thoughts?
We're definitely being one-eyed. That's the whole point of being a supporter, right? You've got to have some bias in there, or else what's the point? I mean, in the ground, it looked like a dubious challenge, but we were up the other end, couldn't really tell. But then looking at the replays, it's like, okay, so there's contact. He swung at the ball, he's missed it, he's contacted the Sheridan's leg. That's a penalty. But the fact they continue to look at it made me think, I don't know, and I still haven't watched it back in TV, so I don't know if there's a better view of it than just the quick replay they had at the stadium. Ref had a look at it in a lot of detail. He's gone and looked at it again, and decided it's no penalty. So looked like it to me, but I don't have a really strong opinion on that because someone else has seen a lot better angles than I have. But if there was contact, I don't see how it wouldn't be a penalty. So that's my only question. It looked like there was contact. If there wasn't, fair enough, no penalty. But if there was, it's a penalty. But again, going back to my rant about VAR, the game had been going for a couple of minutes. They were on the attack. Then it just stopped in the middle of the game. Didn't wait for the ball to go out for a dead ball. The ref just stopped the game and went over to look at the screen. It's like, well, what on earth are you doing? Surely that decision had been made 2 minutes ago. So I completely made a mockery of all that play in those 2 minutes that had been played. Western Sydney have scored, will they have pulled it back? This game really demonstrated again how dysfunctional and how unnecessary VAR is. And the whole 10 minutes of injury time that we had, because they were also attempting to desperately try to find something wrong with the second goal, which again, from what I saw in the stadium on the big screen, looked very clearly onside, but they spent a long time desperately trying to find that he was offside, which I didn't find in the end. So that's 5 minutes of my life I'm not going to get back.
We actually had David Dome, for those of you who don't know him, the general manager of the club, with us in the bay, it was really good to see Domey, and we've realised that if we have an away match where we're 2-0 down, Domey showing up for the half does bring you luck, but it doesn't bring you luck in terms of penalties. Next up, we are going to have the derby that is this Saturday, February the 21st. It's at Sky Stadium, 5 p.m. New Zealand time. Kick-off. Join the Fever, make some noise. Obviously, Auckland FC's sort of been a little bit hit and miss. I mean, they're obviously still nearly at the top of the table, but they have been overtaken by the Jets. I don't know what to expect. It's the same thing where you can throw all form out the window when it's a derby. Any thoughts on the derby, Danny?
I mean, you can throw form out the window, but you can't really throw it very far, can you? To be honest, they are a lot better side than us, and realistically, we will do very well to get anything out of this. Doesn't mean it can't happen. We have Eze, who can score a goal out of nothing. We've got Almiento, who can score a goal out of nothing. So it's not like we don't have some players who can do stuff. And we've got a lot of goals this season. We do attack quite well when we try, but realistically, they're just a lot better than us. And it'll be interesting to see how Chief puts him out. Is he going out there, and I think this is probably what he will do, defend, and try and nick a goal? Or does he go out there and go, let's just try and outscore them? I think he'll probably try and defend as much as he can, try and control the game if he can. So I envisage a pretty defensive lineup with experience, and we might get away with that. But I wouldn't put a lot of money on it. I think we'll probably get beaten, unfortunately. But it would be nice to score first and give ourselves a little bit of hope for however long that would last.
Like, do we have to do this game again? Do we have to have 3 derbies this season? I'm so over it. Like, we get it. Just we know what the result's gonna be. Stop putting us through misery. My only kind of hope is that Auckland FC play tomorrow against Sydney. Verstraete and Cosgrove are on 4 yellow cards. Both of them hit 5. They're both banned for the derby, and we are at least closer to what we could be in terms of skill level. Rufa was lucky. He was on 4 as well, and he didn't get carded in the last game, which everyone, I think, I don't know, probably the betting markets would be going crazy about that one. But yeah, he didn't get that 5th yellow card, so he's free to play in the derby if he doesn't get a mysterious injury halfway through the week like they all seem to do. But yeah, that's my hope, is that tomorrow night Sydney rile them up enough. Ryan Grant, I guess, does enough to piss them off and get them both a card so they're both banned. Honestly, I think I know what's going to happen with this result, and I don't want to hear about it.
Well, you never know. Singh, I think, he didn't look ready to play on Friday, to be fair, and I was surprised he was started. He's taken a knock, and Danny, you are right. It does feel like every creative midfielder, attacking midfielder we get plays 2 games, bits of 2 games, and then gets injured. And it had worried me slightly because apparently we had almost signed Singh pre-season. And then I can't remember where I read it or heard it. It sounded like Chiefy was doing the whole, I'd like to build a team around this one single person, like he tried to do with Marco last season. I'm like, thinking to myself, I'm glad that we didn't sign Singh then, because we can't just build a whole team around one person. Look what happened last season when we tried to build it around one person. Anyway, so we'll see if Singh is back with that knock. I very, very much hope so, and that he can get a little bit of time. There was no LBS, which was a big exclusion. Danny, I'm sure that you were very angry that there was no LBS against Wanderers.
Always disappointed not to see him, because I just think he's an exciting player to watch, so I just enjoy having him on the pitch. But unless you play the balls to him in the right place, and again, there's no point in having him on the pitch. If you're expecting him to track back and, be a defensive midfielder, it's not going to happen. If you're going to give him a ball with four people around him, again, you need to give him somewhere where he can run at someone or put it in space, you can go at it. So if you don't play to his strengths, he's not going to succeed. He's the young player. He's still learning, obviously, but he's not going to suddenly become a total all-round player immediately. We don't have many of those anyway, even on an experienced player. So you play to his strengths, or you probably don't play him at all. So if you're not prepared to do that, then why play him? I thought it wouldn't have been a bad match to play him in, because again, as we said, Western Sydney, they are not the greatest side in the world. Had we gone 1-0 up and they would have been panicking going forward, would have been put him on there. I think he does what he sort of does have is, which I think we're really missing in this side. He has a bit of pace. I don't think he's the fastest in the world, but he moves quickly with the ball, and we don't really have anyone who's got a lot of pace there. Eze, he's more strong than fast, and that's about it, really. We don't really have anyone with any pace, so we don't have your Soterios or your Ben Oles or anybody that or even Costa had a bit of pace. We don't have anyone like that, so we're really limited in terms of how we break on the counter-attack. We have to have a lot of people up there for an attack to work. Unless I did it all by himself, which he's capable of doing, and he was excellent against Western Sydney again, then we don't break quickly enough to create those goals. And LBS is one of the players who can do that. So I'd quite like to have him in the squad as a tool to use against these sides.
There might have been a reason that we're just simply not aware of. Jordan, did you have any thoughts on the upcoming derby for Saturday?
Yeah, I'm super excited. We're going over.
Oh.
So, I'm obviously, I just want a decent game. Let's really hope this is a decent game. And like I said earlier, I hope we need to have Josh back in for this one, Josh Oliemwe. I think he'll make a huge difference just in the whole controlling of the defensive line as well. Other than that, yeah, I think like you're just saying as well about Luke Brooks-Smith. He needs to be in the squad. I must be some sort of reason, I don't know, but he I think what you were just saying about his pace and his energy that he brings is so important. Now it's a tough one that he's not in the squad, but the derby. Auckland are a good team with good players. So it's not going to be an easy game. I was looking at the weather forecast earlier. It looks like rain, wind and rain. I don't know. Me and Joseph are going over. We're going over with hope, but not much optimism. So yeah, let's hope it's going to be a great game. Get the lineup working.
Well, we'll see. Say hi to Jordan if you see him there and join the fever. If you can, we will move on now to our Phoenix women. They played Sunday at Porirua Park. The weather was pretty bad. Photomax said he hadn't been that wet photographing a game for a long time. It looked awful, and I'm very glad that it all got played before that really awful storm moved in yesterday. I don't know whether it was overnight, but today anyway. So I hope that everybody's safe who is in Wellington and in the region where that storm is. We had a player of the match of Mania Elliott. There were a few people who were possibilities, but we felt like she put in a lot of work. She also got the second most touches out of any player on the field, which is pretty good considering she plays wide. Anthony's first start, Daisy Brazendale came in for Pinenberg, and I think the one that was the really big miss was no Grace Jale. She copped that head knock last week, and as a precaution, she didn't play. I think we missed her, and I think potentially we would have been looking at a better result if we had her not just maturity and leadership, but skill set across the park. We will talk about the Brooke Nunn kick out in the 9th minute, but let's start by actually talking about the goals and whatnot. We started with a very, very high intensity. However, it was the 16th minute where Peter Trimmis got a beautiful free kick. It was curling into the top left. Will be one of the goals of the season, I think, for the dub. Excellent, excellent goal. We did pull it back. 28th minute, Mackenzie Anthony with her very first goal for the Phoenix. Lou Leon presses Grove. their goalkeeper into a turnover at the top of the box. Woods gets the first shot at it, which was a little bit poor, and it was blocked into the path of Kenzie Anthony and into the back of the net. Grove didn't have a great game. She definitely dropped the ball a couple of times after that, and I think the wind was a lot, even for our own team. I think the wind had a really big factor here. 47th minute, Levin gets the ball wide. Avani Prakash makes that just with the turn and the pass wide. She's unmarked and she scores. So half-time, us 1, Mariners 2. I feel like we were panicking a little bit towards the end of the second half where we had the wind, but it did feel a little bit like we were just... There was so much urgency to play the ball, and people were calling to shoot, like even in stupid places where they're joking to shoot from, like Vic Essen to shoot. But we just couldn't make it work. We weren't really getting clear, good chances. Full time, we had an XG of 1.75 to their 0.65. Shots 22-9, that's 8 on target and 3 on target. We had more accurate passes, 221 to 171, the passing percentage of 66 to 59, which I think shows that maybe we were a little bit more comfortable in the wind than they were. We've lost every time we've played Mariners in the dub. Let's start with you, Jordan. What were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I actually thought that was an interesting stat that we've never beaten Central Coast. I was surprised by that one. I thought, look, Daisy Brazendale come into the midfield, so she actually I thought she had a really good game in there. Yeah, we missed Charlie. Without her, we didn't have the control of that midfield. Brazendale did well coming in and doing, because she came in for Pinewood, and then we had Vlock in there as well, who did give away the free kick on the edge of the box, and then there was another one there. But like, again, she's so young that she's coming into that position where it is a lot more of a controlled role than what she's been used to. So, but, and then second half, I feel like with the wind, we were out of ideas. Our plan ended up just being the same thing over and over and over and over, which wasn't working because the wind, we just didn't, I felt like the wind looked terrible. The weather was terrible. It's like, I think when they come back from halftime, you could just see the rain just going sideways. But yeah, we looked like we needed to play a little bit more calmer, get the ball that little bit slower. But they were, like you're saying, they were just trying to rush it, looking for the goal, obviously. But then they were hitting from too far out, trying to use the wind, obviously. But we weren't hitting the target at all. And then if we were trying to play a through ball, and it just, I don't know, it looked like we were really struggling to change up to create something when they kind of had that mindset of the same attack the same way without changing too much, and then it just didn't work, and then the panic kind of set in, and they couldn't change, they couldn't find that goal, which was unfortunate. Like, first half into the wind, I think we played better. We were the better side. We got that unlucky goal at the 46th minute, I think it was. And then if it was Leon who hits the crossbar, if we could score that goal, then they would, it's a completely different game. We would have ran away. But unfortunately, that's how it works. So, yeah, I just feel like just a little bit lack of creativity or ideas in that second half. But some play like Mackenzie Barry, as always, super solid in the back line. Nothing really gets past her. So, and then, yeah, Brooke Nunn just showing some love to her old teammates on there. And then, yeah, so it was good to see Mackenzie Arnold get on the scoreboard as well. Well taken goal after just kind of fell to her feet there. So disappointing not to get points out of the game, especially after City had a draw yesterday as well, I think. So we could have been top of the table at the end of the round with a game in hand. So that's okay. We go on to next week. But yeah.
It's a Kiwi podcast when you call her a live-in instead of live-in. But anyway, I think, yeah, we did not play with the wind well enough. I think our just game management lost us this game. You could see that they were frantic and panicking, trying to equalize when they probably didn't need to. I think we were saying last week that we knew that our midfield was up for a battle. You have Izzy Gomez in the other team. You're always going to come in for a battle, and to not have Grace Jarley, I think, is just a disaster. As soon as I saw that she wasn't in the team lineup, I was just like, we are going to have a hard time in there. So, no offense to Brasendale. She's a good player, but it's a lot of work in there to kind of contain someone like Izzy Gomez, and it's, a bit of a struggle there. And so I think, unfortunately we couldn't capitalize with the wind. That when both of their goals get nominated for goal of the week, that, they had two pretty spectacular finishes. The free kick was kind of interesting because they lined up kind of shortest in the middle and then tallest at the end, and it just went over the inside person's head because they were the shortest one. I think they probably could have reversed it and put the taller one on there, because to get the angle around the short ones on the edge would be a lot harder, and I think they probably could have blocked that. I don't understand why they set up the ball that way. And then they obviously put the taller ones, Ali Walker, etc., in the box to try to defend it, but you don't really need... She's never going to pop in a ball there to get on someone's head. You're there at the top of the box with the wind, you're shooting. Put the tall ones in the wall. I think that was just a very poor wall effort there. And I think that when you're playing with that wind, you could see we're hitting the ball like kind of long and high, kind of a hoof and hope method, and it wasn't working. It was so unpredictable. We weren't winning any of those balls, and they were just rolling out if they got past anyone. I think we just needed to control the game, keep the ball to players, play it to the feet, keep it on the ground even, and just move the ball around. We're better on the ball, and I think that we just panicked and we were not playing how we should have played, and we're not playing as we have in the past few weeks. And yeah, I think we definitely had the chance to win this game. We could have won this game. I don't think that they were better than us. They just played the conditions better, and hopefully the return fixture we can actually get a win from them, because I don't like having these 0-win records against these teams. So yeah, we're still sitting, second with a game in hand. Not all is lost. I feel like being in a title battle sucks. It's really hard. It's not for me. I'm used to my Knicks being at the bottom of the table, where a win, cool, we get a win. But this now is just every week I'm on edge, and it's a good position to be in, but I don't think my heart can take it. I might not last to the end of the season.
We did get some helpful results on the weekend. Victory preventing City from getting a win, so that was a little draw. I think the other helpful one was Canberra getting a draw, and Sydney FC decided to start Sydney FCing again and beat Raw 4-0, 4-1, something like that. So we definitely got helped, but we did not help ourselves, which is part of the problem. Danny?
I thought this game was also a bit of a tough watch, a bit like the men's one, but it wasn't because the two sides were poor, the two very good sides. It was just the conditions and the way that they sort of, if you like, they balance each other out a little bit. Maybe it wasn't a brilliant match to watch. It was very bitty. It was there was long balls going all over the place, so the conditions looked horrible. But for the first 15 minutes, we looked superb. We were pressing so hard at the front, winning all the balls, getting in there, having chances, and I thought, goal past him. But once they got their first goal, which was an excellent free kick, really used the wind to get it up, over and away. Essen couldn't get across because the wind, the ball sped up after it crossed the wall. It sped up, flew into the corner, so you shouldn't have a chance. Once that happened, and then they started controlling the midfield really well. I think one consequence of Jarlo being out was meant that Vlok played further back, so we didn't have her pushing forward as well. So Brasendale was doing all right. Vlok's, I don't think, as good defensively as she is attacking. That's a better skill. So we really didn't have that midfield. So we were good when we got it up amongst the front 4 or 5 when they were up there, but we couldn't sort of keep it in the middle there to play it up there. I thought we really missed Leon when she went off. I thought she was really good because she's good at that sort of little short balls in and around legs, and just the back heels and the flicks and stuff, which was working in that sort of conditions, rather than lumping it up to and hoping Woods could get onto it or Anthony get onto it. So I think we missed her when she went off. But yeah, Flock didn't have the best game, and I think it was partly because of the position she was in, because she was too further back, so she couldn't affect the attack as well. But I mean, by the middle of the second half, I think it was really clear we weren't going to score. Resigned to the result, I just didn't think it was going to happen, and it didn't. We were huffing and puffing and not really doing anything. I think their midfield's pretty good. Gomez is very good. I thought Prakash was excellent. I thought they were really good. The pass for the second goal was superb. And they just outplayed us in that part of the park, and that's what made the difference. We're still second. We'll still go top if we win our game in hand, so I'm not reading too much into it. But I think Central Coast probably outcoached us a little bit in that game, and they played the conditions better. They were good in the parts of the park where they needed to, and I'm sure Bev Priestman will look at that and work out what to do the next time. So disappointing, but we're not going to walk this league. You have to work, you have to battle, and it's not always going to be perfect conditions. You're not always going to play a team that's going to play to your strengths. So you've got to work out how to overcome those.
Definitely agree on that point. Let's talk about one of the decisions that we just vaguely touched on. I don't know how we keep escaping what really should probably be red cards. I got my prop. So there's the Marisa Vandermeer Dogso, which was, I think, pretty 50-50. Michaela Woods with a little bit of a kick out, and Brooke Nunn. I mean, I kind of wonder whether if this hadn't happened in the 9th minute, she would have been more seriously punished. It's a very clear kick out, which we've seen a lot of that kind of stuff from her, which is super, super disappointing. Not just that it happens, but that it continues to happen. She didn't even get a yellow. She got a talking to. I think the ref was pretty reluctant to hand out cards. I did hear the Fever later in the game chanting, "Where's your cards at?" And I was thinking, well, I hope she's left them at home, because Brooke could have been walking into the changing room in the 9th minute. Any thoughts on that call? I know when I say, let's discuss that call, as if we have to re-referee the moment, and sometimes we are, and there's again no VAR for it, so the ref might not have even seen it. But what impact could that potentially have had? And are we pretty lucky to be escaping what really could be very early red cards in these games? Are we getting the luck that the men aren't getting for the women?
I originally thought red card. As soon as she did it, we were like, oh no, that's a red. And then to just have a talking to was a shock. I was expecting a lot more than that. So obviously we'll take it, because we complain about it in the men's side. So they are getting lucky. In my opinion, it was definitely worthy of a yellow at least. And you probably couldn't argue if it was a red. Yeah, it was a silly decision from Brooke to do it. So got luck. So
it could have been a red, but I think the referees decided it's early in the game. It wasn't brutal. She didn't jump studs in back. She just left her leg out, so the player tripped over it, put her in there. So I think the refs decided, okay, let's have a word, let's put down the expectations, but we don't want to spoil the game by sending someone off in the 9th minute. And you've seen that happen before. Challenges early on don't get the same treatment than challenges later on do. So the refs, had a word with her. She probably said, look, you do that again, you're off. And to be fair, Brooke Nunn didn't really do that again. So couldn't have argued too much if she'd have got a red, but I think it was probably sensiblest refereeing. I wouldn't have wanted one of their players to be sent off for something like that, because it just wasn't brutally dirty. It was just someone just pushing the envelope a bit too much, which, it happens. And the ref told her to pull her head in, and she probably did a little bit, as much as Brooke Nunn can. But, that's Brooke Nunn. That's why she's probably been our best player, because she has that aggression. And sometimes that's not always going to be in control. And I think you have to accept that a little bit.
I didn't see it, but she's innocent. No card. She's fine. No foul. But I think there's some players in the league who kind of get away with a lot of that. I know, you have your Ryan Grant, your Luke Bratton, and now I guess your Brooke Nunns, who just kind of have this play about them every single game, and then maybe 1 in every 5 will see a yellow for it. And it's frustrating when it's on the other team, but I'm happy for her to keep going until she pushes it too far, because she's one of our best players, so I don't want to see her get sent off and banned for a few games. So, keep it competitive and keep it aggressive to a sense, but hopefully she doesn't do anything too stupid. But like I said, I didn't see this one, so it was fine.
I think
Nothing happened.
It was a clear, deliberate kick. It wasn't leaving a leg out or something like that. I think it probably should have been a red. And it's not the first time that she probably should have got a red. And it's not like, we've talked about Aaron Kunda before, how he's 16, 17, and that he gets wound up and gets sent off. Like Brooke is, I think, 29. So really, really should know better. We can circle back round to aspects of the game, but I will mention the one that's coming up. That is Melbourne Victory away at the home of Matildas. That is 9 p.m. New Zealand time, Friday, 20th of February, 7 p.m. local. Join the Vicnics. They will be there, I guess, with the exception of the Martin family.
Yeah.
Again, Melbourne Victory, they are not that far up the table. They're not doing as well as they could. They have. We'll see. I feel like they may be one of those teams that we've never beaten as well. I think we've had draws. We really need to start getting some more wins. Bev talked about it maybe being a kick up the pants, having had that loss yesterday. Erin?
We famously beat them at home this season, 1-0. I think that was the Piev Lock goal, her first goal for the season. So we have beaten them, but we haven't beaten them at home. But we do have quite a good draw record with them as well. So I think the last time we played them at home, we did get a 1-1 draw. And that was Mania Elliott in the 90th minute coming through with that one. Yeah, Melbourne Victory at home is always going to be a tough game. I think, even if they haven't been doing the best, they have been a little bit shafted. I think Claudia Bunge got a dog-so red card that wasn't a dog-so red card. And they lost that game to Canberra, which then got overturned. Great that it gets overturned, but it impacts the game. And when a league's this close, any kind of result will, ruin your chances of making top 6. And so I think it will be a tough game, but we've beaten them already this season. And I think that, we will come back from our last game knowing that we dropped points and coming out and wanting to win this. And I think Bev will instill something in them. And I think that, I think we're going to give them a hiding.
Danny?
Yeah, look, I have confidence in this team. Again, I don't think that result against the North Coast was, symptomatic of the side. I think Bev Priestman would have learnt from that. She'll put something in place. The Charlie's back so much better, and I hope she is. Again, I think we'll win. I have a lot of confidence in this team. They've got so many good players. They seem to have so much spirit and energy when they do play against sides, and so much attacking ability to score that, I think we'll beat them. Not sure it'll be a hiding, maybe a semi-hiding.
Jordan?
I'm actually gutted I'm not going to be at the game. We didn't realise the dates when we booked to go back, but that's okay. We're going to make up for that later in the season. But yeah, it should be a good game. I would hope they're going to bounce back from just the result of last week. That there's a top spot, and Victory. We've had results here versus Victory, which is really good to be able to say that, because we can't say that about the other side. So they got the draw last time, and I think it was the season before we ended up going down by 1 goal. I think. But we outplayed them. So the last 2 years at Victory here, we've been competitive. So they should be able to come in. I'd say I'm gonna go with Aaron and go for that. We're gonna smash them, especially because I'm not going to be there. So they're going to score 5. So yeah, it should be a good game. I'll be watching that from Wellington.
Yeah, I feel sorry for, so we've got some good friends in the Victory Vikings who'll be there, and for their sake, for our sake, let's smash them. For their sake, would feel bad for them. But they'll be there come hell or high water, just like the Knicks fans show up for their teams. Any more thoughts on the women's game?
I'm hoping Jale will be back. I haven't heard, but if it's just a head knock, I'm presuming she's just going to be out for that 1 week, just for that little recovery. Because she'll be a massive. We're going to need her there, and then we can push Block back up into that roaming free role.
Yeah, 100%. I think Jale was the missing piece yesterday. And I mean, it's like anything. You can't depend on one player, but she has been a rock for years at the Knicks, so we definitely need that. Erin?
I think it's not depending on one player. It's kind of our midfield's just, we keep losing players from the midfield every week. You know, we started off with this midfield that I thought was just going to tear the league apart, and then they just tore the ACLs instead. And so we've suddenly, you know, already kind of down to Jale and Brasendale and Pynenberg, who's come in. But, you know, that's not even really where we want Jale to be playing, but she's kind of the best of what we have there, and she's very good at it, and she's, I think, probably one of our most consistent players. I know it probably doesn't mean anything, but she was, you know, top of the FOTMob rankings out of the entire league. So, you know, to lose her from the team is a huge loss. And, you know, it's not just relying on her, but she's kind of what's really holding the whole midfield together now, because we've lost so many of them. So hopefully she comes back and, yeah, just kind of glues it all together again, and especially lets Pia Block run rampant up top instead of having to defend, because we like to see her score goals.
All right, well, that rounds up our chat about the men and the women. Jordan, we really, you know, as I guess we want to hear a little bit about what you sort of get up to, you know, with your sports photography, and also the little trips, or big trips, to be fair, that you take with the Martin family. And I see you've got the Martin family flag back there in the background, and
Yeah,
it's always a joy to see that at any game. So yeah, Jordan, let us know a bit about what you get up to.
Yeah, I guess I'm lucky enough to be able to photograph for the team. Like, yeah. So obviously I've been watching the Phoenix since day one, coming from Palmy. And then, yeah, when we moved over to Australia, I just kind of dragged all the kids in with me and dragged the wife in with me. So now we all just follow them around where we can. And yeah, so we've done a few big trips, and especially now that I get to go and photograph the games, it just, we try and do 2 to 3 away trips from Melbourne a year. So we've already done a couple this year. We've got a couple more coming up. But yeah, no, so it's definitely, I'm lucky, I would say. I'm lucky to be able to photograph and do what I do and take the family with me, which is, I probably wouldn't do it as much or anything if I didn't have the family and the kids and all of that as well. It wouldn't be as enjoyable. No, yeah. And like the Phoenix have been really good with it. So I do a lot with the Phoenix, with the club. They use a lot of my photos for the away games now, which is, again, it's really cool to have that recognition as well. But yeah. So what else do you want to know?
I mean, do you want to tell us about the big trip that you had at the beginning of January? That was
Yeah.
that was full on. It was full on. I caught you for 3 of those games, but
That was fun. It was really cool. I think there's a few people that we've seen like multiple games. So we ended up going from Melbourne. We watched the Melbourne fixture game for the men, which really got our trip off to a terrible start. It was once we watched that game, we were like, should we do this? Should we get in the car? So obviously we did. We were always going to. Next day we jumped in the car, drove up to Sydney to watch the Wanderers versus the women, which was Samba's game, where the crowd there was that was fun. That was a massive crowd. Everyone there just for Samba. So the atmosphere of that one was amazing. And we got the win there. So we still haven't seen a loss in Sydney, which is great. So both men, every time we've been to Sydney, so I think we've done about 5, 6 games in Sydney. We haven't haven't seen a loss, so that's always a positive. And then from there, we carried on up for the doubleheader in Brisbane, which again was two really good games to watch. The men were surprising, like amazing game to watch, result-wise and everything. We got lucky on the results if we take away the Melbourne Victory game, but that's something we were expecting or we were used to, because that's just Amy Park, Phoenix. We just go for the love of it, not because we're going to get a result. But yeah, then the rest of the games was really cool to do it. I think we ended up doing 3,500 Ks driving. So from here to there and back. So it's like 1,800 Ks each way or something like that. So no, it was really good. Obviously, some of my kids only did half of the trip with me because they didn't want to sit in the car on the way back. So they jumped on the planes and one went to New Zealand, one flew back to Melbourne. So yeah. But no, it was really good. And yeah, so we've done a few trips now. I think we've done a couple road trips to Adelaide and to Sydney and all the rest. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you see the Martin family around, do say hi. Jordan, where can we follow you online for your photography if anybody's interested?
So my best spot is just my Instagram page, which is just Jordan M Sport. I don't think there's an underscore in there. Or I've also got the Facebook page there as well, which is, again, Jordan M Sport. I usually post all my Phoenix, all my sports that I do. So I do a lot of basketball, which is actually my main sport. I don't really enjoy photographing local soccer anymore. I think there's just a lot of politics that came into it and all the rest. I've probably photographed more basketball, and then I'll do the A-League where I can, which has always been. But I have been trying to do a couple more local footballs lately, just for the local clubs and stuff, which has been not too bad. So yeah, if you want to see some sports photography, want to just see some random Phoenix stuff, to be honest, I think me and my older son Joseph, you probably see a lot of us just posting random Phoenix stuff there. So that's all there as well. So yeah, check us out on Instagram or Facebook, or yeah, I think I've got a TikTok page too, but no idea what that is.
That's all right. They'll soon find you and hopefully give you a follow. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to have you on, and thanks to Erin and Danny as well. We will be back next week to chat those upcoming games. Thank you for joining us. Matua.